Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's a beautiful day outside. On November 13th, in the year 2000, police made a horrifying discovery in the parking lot of the Soldiers' Home in Chelsea. They found a body of an unknown female. Tragically, she had been cut in half. She was without her head and without any hands. That discovery set off an extraordinary investigative journey that brings us here today, nearly 26 years later. This is not a story about a case going unsolved for years and years. In fact, it took investigators less than a year to identify the killer, a man named Eugene McCollum. McCollum admitted murdering the victim and dumping her body at the Soldiers' Home. Investigators knew Eugene McCollum was the killer, but they did not know who he had killed. The story here is about an incredible 25-year effort by multiple law enforcement agencies to find the identity of a girl who had come to be known as Chelsea Jane Doe. Acting on information from McCollum, investigators discovered a bag buried in the sand at Nahant Beach. In the bag was Chelsea Jane Doe's head and hands and other body parts. With this discovery and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's Assistance, we were able to create a composite image, which you can see on the monitor over here to your left. For over 2 decades long, after McCollum had pled guilty, law enforcement relentlessly pursued efforts to identify Chelsea Jane Doe. They circulated her composite locally and nationally and utilized the latest advancement in DNA technology. Because delivering justice is never just about holding offenders accountable. It's also about who we get justice for. Perseverance finally paid off. Today, thanks to the tireless efforts of the Massachusetts State Police detectives, agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and prosecutors in my office, we can tell you who Chelsea Jane Doe is. Her name is Tiffany Bradley. She was from Pennsylvania. She was only 17 when she was murdered. She had been reported missing on November 8th of the year 2000 to Allentown Police in Pennsylvania. Several days later, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received 2 tips that Tiffany had been human trafficked, here in the Boston area. Those tips turned out to be accurate. Tiffany had indeed been trafficked to Boston, and within days of arriving here, she met Eugene McCollum, who took her back to his room at the Lynn YMCA, where he killed her and then dumped her body at the Soldiers' Home in Chelsea. Investigators on this case, many of whom are here in this room today, and there are many, never let up in their efforts to identify Tiffany Bradley. They ran down every lead and pursued every tip, day after day, month after month, year after year. Over the past 2 years, the FBI cold case team delivered a genealogical profile from Tiffany's DNA. This spring, that profile led the FBI to James Bradley, who lives in Texas. FBI took a buccal swab from James, and DNA testing revealed that James was the biological brother of young Tiffany Bradley. Tiffany was the only sister to James. We'll introduce you to, and later you'll hear from some of Tiffany's families at the end. But now I'd like to turn this over to FBI Special Agent Ted Dox.
No, good afternoon. My name is Ted Dox. I'm the Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston. Today we can finally say her name, Tiffany Bradley. Tiffany was a 16-year-old girl from Allentown, Pennsylvania, who for the last 26 years was known only as Chelsea Jane Doe. She was a young teen who was trafficked across state lines, exploited by adults, and brutally murdered. Tiffany was strangled, decapitated, and dismembered, and found in the back of the parking lot at Soldier's home in Chelsea. For years, investigators worked tirelessly to determine who she was, where she came from, and who might still be searching for her. The only hint they had to go on was that her name might be Lisa. Even though her killer confessed and was sentenced to a life behind bars, the question of this young victim's identity has remained unanswered until today. Thanks to FBI Boston's cold case team, working in partnership with Massachusetts State Police, she's now been identified. 3 years ago, the FBI initiated investigative genetic genealogy, one of the most powerful tools available to law enforcement in addressing unresolved cases. By combining traditional investigative work and advanced DNA analysis and genealogical research, we've been able to identify victims and offenders in cases that once seemed impossible to solve. In April, we were able to confirm Tiffany's identity after DNA provided by one of her relatives matched. Name Us funded that DNA testing through a Department of Justice grant. But let me be clear, technology alone does not solve cases. People do. This result stems from the persistence of investigators, the collaboration between agencies, and extraordinary advances in technology. I also want to emphasize a really important point here. Identifying victims of violent crime matters. It matters even when the offender has already been caught. It matters even when the case has already been solved. Justice is not delivered until the victim is known, until families have answers, and until communities understand the full truth of what happened. All too often, unidentified victims are reduced to statistics and headlines. But behind every unidentified missing person and homicide victim is a human being, is a daughter, is a friend, is a sibling, and grief that has never faded. This case also highlights the devastating reality of child sex trafficking across this country. Trafficking victims are frequently isolated from support systems, moved from place to place, stripped of their identities, and are deliberately difficult to trace. That's why collaboration between federal, state, and local partners is so critical to stopping it. To the investigators involved in the case, thank you for your determination and compassion. To the family of this young woman, while no announcement can undo your loss, we hope today brings some measure of peace in knowing Tiffany was never forgotten. And the law enforcement agencies across the region know that FBI Boston's case team is here to help you. So please do not hesitate to reach out. Every victim deserves their name back, and every family deserves answers. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to Chelsea Police Department, Massachusetts State Police, and the Suffolk and Essex County District Attorneys and their teams for bringing us on board to assist. I'd also like to thank FBI Boston's cold case team for their hard work in identifying Tiffany. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Colonel Noble.
Thank you, SAC Docs. Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Noble, and I serve as the Colonel of the Massachusetts State Police. First off, I want to extend my deepest sympathy to the Bradley family and all who loved Tiffany. No person should have to endure what Tiffany went through. It is my hope, our hope, that this news today brings some long-awaited answers regarding what happened to Tiffany. My thoughts are with you and your entire family and all those that knew and loved Tiffany. The search for answers, for justice, for Tiffany Bradley began in November of 2000, and at that time, the Massachusetts State Police investigators did not know her name. They didn't know where she was from, but what they did know, what was certain 25 years ago, was that this young woman deserved justice. So often in cases like this, the victims guide the work of homicide investigators. They bring us leads, the evidence, to help bring a suspect like Eugene McCollum to justice. and in this case, the DNA profiles to finally give Tiffany her name back after all those years. We realize in cases like this that there is no finish line. There is no victory lap. There simply is a fight for hard-fought answers to get to the truth and for justice. And we do that work to bring those answers to the families like the Bradleys. We have waited so long for this day. It is rare to have a case like this one, where we knew the suspect's name before the victims. A case like this can challenge even the best and the most hardened detectives and teams. But our team, this team of law enforcement partners, and prosecutors and scientists, they worked together, not just during the initial response to the investigation, but through the years and up to and including today, to work together, to leverage every lead, and in this case, every scientific breakthrough in technology out there to ensure that someone is held responsible for what happened to Tiffany, and to ensure that her family has the facts regarding what happened so long ago. That pursuit, that relentless pursuit, is not something that I, as the colonel or the executives here, can put into a policy. It comes from drive. It comes from a willingness to serve and a commitment for justice for the victims of these families. And that is what we see here today. It is only through their relentless pursuit and a commitment to getting it right that we are all able to stand here today with the Bradley family. This case shows off not only the commitment, but the collaboration and teamwork between the investigators at the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit assigned to both Suffolk County District Attorney's Office and Essex County District Attorney's Office, the team of forensic scientists at our State Police Crime Lab, as well as the steadfast work of the Suffolk and Essex County prosecutors who worked this case. And also to our federal partners at the FBI, who were committed to developing the genealogy in this case and working with our team of investigators to ultimately make the crucial connection between the crime scene in Chelsea and Tiffany's missing persons case out of Pennsylvania. Thank you. 25 years of hard work, of collaboration, of persistence, and partnership centered on the common goal of finding justice for the Bradley family. That's what culminates in today's announcement. Thank you to everyone involved for never giving up in this case. To every police officer, every detective, every agent, every forensic scientist, every prosecutor who contributed in any way to this case, I commend you. I thank you. Your drive for justice in the interest of bringing this suspect to justice and, of course, giving a name to our victim is truly commendable. And I thank you. And with that, it's my honor to turn it over to District Attorney Tucker.
Thank you, Colonel. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Tucker. I'm the District Attorney for Essex County. One of the most important and solemn duties that district attorneys have is to do justice, to hold people accountable, but it's also to make sure that we speak for the victims, particularly those that can't speak for themselves. That's been done in this case. Justice was done many years ago with the conviction of the person responsible for Tiffany's death. We come to the closure today, and there's no better feeling than to be able to tell families that their loved one has been found. While Tiffany may have been unidentified for many years, she was never forgotten. A look at the case file will see that from the beginning, from the first Chelsea police officer that responded to this scene, all the way through the incredible work by the Massachusetts State Police detectives, and now working with our federal partners in their endeavors to make sure that we find names and families to bring closure, that's been done today. This is nothing short of extraordinary. I was a police officer for 32 years in Salem, and I look at this case as the model of how detectives and police officers should handle a case, never forgotten. I think it's a testament today to see so many of the police officers from that time, many of who have moved on from their career, are back today. That's the resilience, that's the dedication. Today is a good day, not only for everybody that worked on this case, but for Tiffany's family as well. Thank you. Yeah, Hayden?
So I want everyone to have an opportunity to get a little better understanding of who Tiffany was, and the best way to do that is to have her family come speak. And Janet Bradley Knight, her aunt, comes all the way from Florida, and Tiffany's niece, Shakira Wiggins, comes all the way from Mississippi. I had an opportunity to spend some time with them just before we started here, and your grace and your dignity under these circumstances is extraordinary. And I can only imagine what an incredible and vibrant and wonderful young woman Tiffany must have been. So you should come up and introduce yourselves to people and offer a few words, if you will. Thank you.
I'm Janet Knight, and I'm Tiffany's aunt. Her father was my brother. Tiffany was a loving girl. She was a girly girl / tomboy. She had 3 older brothers that she tried her best to keep up with. She enjoyed bossing them around. Tiffany was very athletic. She loved dancing. She loved a lot of things. She loved her trips to Florida. She was amazed by the white crystal sand off the Gulf of Mexico. She loved the mountains in Colorado. She drew extremely well. She always told the story of her Aunt Vera taking her to the mountains just to draw pictures. She enjoyed her shopping sprees with Aunt Chris and going to the wharf in Maryland for seafood. I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart, not letting my baby be a chef, a box on a shelf. I thank you all for your tireless effort. I've worked with law enforcement in my 30 years of criminal justice, and I must say, thank you. I thank you, Melissa, for what you did to finally connect her with her family. I thank Trooper Barnes for putting up with me sometimes. I really thank you all. Thank you so much for letting us take her safely home.
Good afternoon. We, the family of Tiffany Alexis Bradley, would like to thank the state of Massachusetts, the counties of Essex and Suffolk, for their tireless effort to identify Tiffany Alexis Bradley and bring her assailant to justice. In addition, we would like to thank Judge Kathy Tutman for fighting for Tiffany when she did not have a name or a voice. Finally, thank you to the FBI and the Massachusetts State Police for reuniting her with her family. As my aunt said, Tiffany was a joyful child, always trying to protect her older brothers and hold her own. She had a radiant smile, light brown hair, and hazel eyes. She spent most of her early childhood drawing, cheerleading, and dancing. My first memory of Tiffany was in 1985 when she and her brothers visited my family in Colorado Springs for the summer. She was tiny but mighty, always taking one for the team, trying to keep up with children many times her size. She never cried. As a junior in high school, she was in ROTC and played basketball, which is where this story ended. Due to reasons unknown, Tiffany was placed in an impossible situation which led to devastating consequences. Her last conversation with her favorite cousin was cut short with her voice trembling, saying, "I'll call you later. I have to go." That call never came and was replaced with 26 years of waiting, wondering why. The fact that we are here today is a miracle. It is totally amazing that after 26 years, people care enough to give her a name and return her to her family. The wheels of justice run slowly but surely. And finally, to the individual responsible for removing her from her family, and to Mr. Eugene McCullum, the individual responsible for taking her life, we pray that you are freed from the demons torturing you so that you too can experience peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet and Shakira. The risk of speaking for everybody in this room, we pray that the Lord will continue to bless and keep you and your family and your loved ones and your entire community always. We're so glad you're able to be here today. I have a list here, and we'll turn it over to questions in a second. The list here of some names that I'm told to just share. These are people that were very much involved in the investigation. But I will say this, the list I'm about to read doesn't even come close to the number of law enforcement personnel that are in this room right now. And so I'm probably going to miss some names that cared and that stood by and that worked hard on this, because there are many, many more of you here than I have on this list. So if I leave anyone else out, please forgive me. But I want to just mention a few people other than the folks that spoke earlier. Lieutenant Detective Kevin Condren, Lieutenant Detective Joe Flaherty, Trooper Tim Burns of the Mass State Police, Trooper Dave Swan, the Mass State Police, Lieutenant Detective Bob Murphy, who I saw somewhere earlier, Lieutenant Detective Tim O'Connor, and Lieutenant Tim McDougall, also Sergeant John Silva, Chief Keith Houghton from the Chelsea Police Department is here. Thank you for being here. And I believe we have members of the Lynn Police Department that is here as well. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank our chief of the homicide unit here in the office, who handled this case originally, Mark Lee, and our victim witness advocate, Jillian Rose. Again, if I've left any names out, please forgive me. At this point, we'll happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Dia, can you give us an idea of the time that Tiffany disappeared in Pennsylvania and then the time that she died here in Massachusetts? How long was that period of time? And
Yeah.
what efforts were made to find in Pennsylvania this missing 17-year-old girl?
So I know that, they came upon the discovery in November 13th. She was reported missing on November 8th. So it was a relatively short period of time between the time that she was found missing and the time that her body was discovered.
And the man who killed her is not believed to be the man who trafficked her, right? Those are two different people.
So I actually don't know the answer to that question. As far as I know, the answer is no. Mark Lee, who was with the investigation originally, is here, so he may want to jump in and answer any questions too.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's correct. We don't know.
So is the family, at the time she disappeared, was she living in Pennsylvania with family and disappeared from there?
Yes.
Yes. And did they, well, I guess, I don't know if they can say, or what did they think happened to her in those early years?
Did you have any idea of what had happened at that point, or only
Yeah.
that she had gone missing?
Would you mind going to the mic, please?
Thank you.
She was reported missing immediately in Pennsylvania. When she left, I'm not sure the time length, I think it was within a week of her leaving, she called from New York. She called a cousin. She was only able to get in touch with a cousin, and she had a conversation, and she seemed, for the most part, okay. Maybe she even knew who she was with. We're not sure. None of that is confirmed. But she talked briefly, and then she said she had to go. And so we went to New York searching. And we went to Syracuse area. We went to Philadelphia. We searched in those states, but her father became ill, and he passed away, and so did her mother. And but immediately, those searches in those areas were done. She was immediately placed on missing and exploited children. So we did all we could to find her, but I believe, it's just my belief, no investigation, but I believe that she was, she passed away shortly after she went missing.
Ma'am,
Can you just, go ahead.
this must have just been so excruciating for your family all these years, not knowing what had happened to to her. What, before you got the call from the, or whoever called you, I actually don't know who called you first, but what had your family been thinking had happened?
I started a Facebook page for her, and I put her pictures on and Tiffany missing, and I monitored the Facebook page. We didn't hear anything, and she was on the missing and exploited children, and at times we thought she was out of the country, as sometimes they do. They take them out of the country, so we didn't know where she was.
Can you describe, did you know that this DNA testing was underway, that there was a possibility, or did they just call you out of blue? And which family member got the call first?
It is my understanding my distant relatives that just popped up for a DNA search that were unfortunately, I guess, distant enough that we wouldn't have known. They didn't know. And then ultimately my cousin Courtney, which is her brother, was contacted.
What was it like to get that call once you knew that she had been found?
To be totally honest, bittersweet. It was 26 years, has a way of providing some closure, some peace. I won't say closure, but peace. And after 26 years, honestly, it felt like her birthday. Today kind of feels like her birthday, because we're celebrating her. So it was bittersweet, but we are so happy and just relieved that they even care after this amount of time. So it's just truly a statement on humanity, and we're not in such a bad shape after all.
I don't know what the status is of her remains. Are her remains here, and what are your plans for either her remains or how to now mourn her in some way?
We're not sure at this time.
Jay, can you speak about, we've done a lot of stories over the years with this genealogy testing, and in particular how it helps catch, predators or suspects in cold cases, but it's kind of rare to discover who someone is. So can you talk about using it for that purpose?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've had some extraordinary technological advances over the years, and they've helped us in every way. They've helped us identify individuals responsible for crime. They've actually helped us exonerate people that weren't responsible for crime, and they've also helped us identify people that at one point we thought we might never. And so that's a great and powerful thing. I would say to that too, though. First of all, if you're not familiar with the National Center for Exploited Children, they do amazing work. And so their continuous efforts on behalf of children all across this country cannot and should not ever be underestimated. And I don't remember which one of our previous speakers mentioned, I think it was you, Ted, that the technology is great and it's important, and we're glad that it lends a hand. But without the efforts, the human effort, the effort of countless people that cared enough about justice for Tiffany and her family, that technology is useless. We're here today because enough people stood together with Tiffany's family and said, we're going to keep going and we won't relent until we get answers. And if we didn't have them today, we would have kept going and going and going, because that closure for victims and witnesses, that closure for communities is the cornerstone of justice and what we stand for. Again, I said it earlier, holding people accountable is important and great, but if we don't bring some measure of wholeness and healing and restoration to families as honorable as this one, then we miss it. And we're so very glad we were able to
Some of the
do that
family
here.
members, they said they think she passed not long after she disappeared. Did you have a fix on when the column killed her, and how does that relate to when she disappeared? Is it
I don't think we know for sure, right, Mark? It would have been relatively close in time. That's right. Yeah, so within 24 hours of when her remains were discovered would have been when we estimate that she would have been
And how
murdered.
long was that after she had been reported missing?
She was reported on November 8th, 2000,
And this would have happened,
November 13th,
okay, so you're right,
discovered.
very shortly after.
Right, yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about how Eugene McCollum was tracked down, anything we know about him, how an arrest was made? It sounds like a year after her remains were found.
So fairly elaborate investigation. Took almost 9 months to identify him and then make a decision to arrest. The details of which are probably too much to go into today. On behalf of Kevin and everybody who's here, I'd like to make this and continue to be a day for Tiffany Bradley and not Eugene McCollum.
Anybody else?
All right.
Sorry, if there was any information that comes forward about who may have trafficked Tiffany, is there any sort of statute of limitations on that, or could they be prosecuted now all these years later, as hard as that might be?
Statute of limitations on the trafficking.
I don't know.
We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. All right,
We good?
thank you all.
Thank you.